He lost his job at Men's Health because he made fun of Girl Scouts. Fired from Stuff magazine for paying dwarves to break into a business meeting. His deal at Maxim UK ended without being renewed because circulation dropped while he was in charge. In 2006, Greg Goodfeld had been fired from every big newspaper he had ever worked for. The media elite had written him off as not being able to find work. Then Fox News called with a strange offer. They wanted me to host a show at 3 a.m. Executives joked that the only people who would watch him at that time would be speed sellers and nursing mothers. No one thought he would last 3 months. In the present day, that same reject has more watchers than Colbert, Fallon, and Kimmel put together. He became the undisputed king of late-night TV even though he never appeared on late-night TV. But going from being a repeated failure to being the biggest star on TV wasn't just luck. As part of it, he got fired several times, met a Russian model in Portugal, built a cult following among insomniacs, and totally changed the way Americans talk shows. To figure out how a man who couldn't keep a job for more than 2 years became the most watched show on TV during his time slot, we need to look at where the damage started. Gregory John Gutfeld came into the world in San Mateo, California, on September 12, 1964. Jackie, his mother, raised the kids in a Catholic home. Greg went to Junipero's Serra High School when he was younger. It was a Catholic school for boys only, and it produced NFL quarterback Tom Brady and baseball star Barry Bonds. He began going to the University of California, Berkeley, around the middle of the 1980s. For a coming star in the conservative media, this choice would shape me in ways I didn't expect. Berkeley's liberal atmosphere didn't change his mind. It turned him off. In the end, he said that being around liberals made him more conservative and being around conservatives made him more libertarian. He noticed that the worst parts of both groups did the same thing, they preached morals and told other people how to live. He didn't want to be a part of either tribe's purity tests. After getting his English degree in 1987, Goodfeld got a job as an intern at the American Spectator. Run some errands for the magazine's extremely difficult editor, Art EMTT, Tyrell. He learned how right media worked from the inside through this experience. But magazines didn't pay well, so Goodfeld moved on to writing for men's living magazines. He first worked as a staff writer at Prevention Magazine, a health-focused magazine. It was there that he started drinking and using drugs at a speed that his co-workers said was amazing. The party life would follow him for many years. At last, he climbed to. It was called Men's Health and it was the best magazine for exercise and abs in the 1990s. By 1999, Goodfeld was the main editor of the paper. His magazine for guys was one of the most popular in the United States. He was 35 years old. After that, he was fired. Depending on who told the story, the formal reasons were different. Goodfeld wrote things that made fun of Girl Scouts, cat fans, and even his own boss. The parent company of the magazine decided he wasn't worth the trouble. One news organization called his. The pattern of your work is both impressive and sad. He kept getting to the top of the stairs and then falling back down. But Goodfeld didn't learn to be careful after failing. He made confusion even worse. The next place he went was Stuff magazine, which was all about gadgets, women, and other things that young men were meant to care about. Goodfeld turned it from an average book into a huge bestseller, with readership going from 750,000 to 1.2 million. He completely messed it up, pushing the limits that sponsors were okay with because the numbers kept going up. Then something happened that would make or break his job as a magazine writer. It was called What Gives a Magazine Buzz and it was put on by the American Society of Magazine Editors in April 2003. For his answer, Goodfeld chose to take the question seriously. His casting agent helped him hire 3 short actors, and he told them to cause as much trouble as possible at the meeting. They bit. Yelling on potato chips. They let their phones ring over and over. They talked loudly while business leaders tried to talk. Security threw them out. The New York Times wrote about it. Goodfeld was fired right away. That would have been the end of most lives. His sure seemed to. Now, no big American newspaper would write about him. He was well known for the wrong reasons. But Greg Goodfeld wasn't happy just being fired from America. He chose to get himself sent to a whole different land. In 2004, London gave Goodfeld a chance to start over. The British version of Maxim needed an editor-in-chief, and it looked like no one in the UK knew about the dwarf episode. They might have also known and not cared. He packed his bags and crossed the Atlantic anyway. During his first week on the job, he had to go to Portugal for a work conference. More than 30 countries added Maxim, and a publisher got editors from all over the world together to talk about strategy. You can see that Goodfeld went to his hotel room and started to settle in. Then he saw the woman in the room next door. Elena Musa worked as a picture editor for Maxim Russia. She was tall and had dark hair. She began her job as a runway model and then moved on to work in magazines. At the meeting in Portugal, she caught Goodfeld's eye right away. He would later say that it was like he knew it right away. When he saw her, he knew right away, that's my wife. Elena did not want to be with him, which was a problem. Goodfeld chased her for 3 days, even though he knew it was a stupid idea. The short American editor who kept showing up everywhere she went made her cold, rude, and uncaring. He finally asked her to go on a real date. Yes, she said. There was a change between them. Within a few weeks, Elena moved from Russia to London to be with him. The friendship grew quickly, which would have looked risky to someone looking in from the outside. Just 5 months had passed since they met, but they got married in New York in a small civic service. The wedding pictures were hard to find. Both of them would rather be private than be known. In his 2008 book, Goodfeld wrote about Elena and how she pushed him to see London the right way instead of staying in their flat and watching reality TV. She made him feel stable in a way that he had never felt in a bar or magazine office. But being stable wouldn't help his job. The effects of Goodfeld's time at Maxim UK were not good. Under his guidance, circulation went down. The company didn't renew his deal when it ran out in 2006. He was now 41 years old, out of work again, married, and didn't seem to have any good options. They moved to the city of New York. Elena first started her own job as a fashion stylist. She went on to work for Venice Magazine, L'Oréal, and Design Scene. She finished in 2017 from Parsons School of Design. In 2006, though, both Goodfelds were beginning over. Greg took a weird job that looked like it would kill his career. He began writing for the Huffington Post. The Huffington Post was a perfect example of everything Goodfeld didn't like about left media. But the site's founder, Arianna Huffington, let conservatives speak out on it, and Goodfeld saw a chance to cause trouble from within. His job became known for making fun of other writers in a way that some people called inspired lunacy. He made fun of Arianna herself. He made fun of other writers. It was a battleground in every comment area because of him. An interesting message caught the eye of another blogger named Andy Levy. They started exchanging jabs and found that they had similar tastes. Dark, sarcastic, and ready to hurt anyone for a laugh. For that online fighting would quickly turn into something bigger. The reason being is that someone at Fox News was watching Goodfeld bother lefties online. Late in 2006, the call came in. Fox News planned to start a late-night show. Did Goodfeld want to know? His answer came right away and was honest. He had no money. Anything was fine with him. Fox flew him to New York so they could meet. The sound was strange. The network needed to fill a spot in time that no one was watching. Originally planned for 2 a.m., most Americans would be asleep when the show aired. Goodfeld joked that the target group was made up of prisoners, speed dealers, and nursing moms. A lot of letters came from people in jail. It first aired on February 5, 2007, under the name Red Eye. Goodfeld was looking forward to weeks of practice and careful planning. Instead, bosses told him they were beginning in 3 days. The team worked on their moves in the green room. Everyone, even the cameraman, had something to drink. There was more of a house party vibe than a TV studio vibe. Red Eye began at 2 a.m. The early episodes were seen by Fox executives, who thought the material was too adult for that time. To fix it, they moved it even later, to 3 a.m., where not as many people would see it and complain. Goodfeld was now lower on the totem pole in his own show before anyone watched it. But in the middle of the night, something strange happened. Red Eye gained a cult following. The structure of the show went against everything you know about cable news. Goodfeld would welcome panelists with ridiculously high praise. They talked about everything from politics to pop culture to silliness. There was nothing holy. There was nothing holy. People started making fun of Fox News all the time. The comedy was dark and silly. And not at all like anything else on TV. Andy Levy, who used to fight with Seinfeld on the Huffington Post, joined the show as a mediator. Bill Schultz, a co-worker from the days when Gutfeld Stuff magazine existed, was chosen to be the sidekick. The three of them got along surprisingly well. Levy was the deadpan snark machine. Schultz was the easy-to-like loss. Like a naughty ringmaster, Gutfeld was in charge of all the chaos. Jackie Gutfeld, Gutfeld's mother, showed up a lot on Red Eye. He called her a senior reporter and said that the joke was that she was over 65. She had to watch Fox News during the day and tell everyone what she saw. She kept saying that the women on TV and in movies wore skirts that were too short. Goodfeld would say that other watchers liked those skirts. The way the mother and son interacted with each other on camera made it seem real. Goodfeld used to feel bad about introducing his friends to his parents when he was younger. As an adult, he saw that those same friends liked hanging out with Jackie more than with him. Getting together with him. People liked her because she was honest and straightforward. She always stood by her son, even when it looked like his plans were doomed to fail. It wasn't supposed to work, Red Eye. A show at 3 a.m. With no funds, drunk cameramen, and topics that seemed to be picked at random, they had no reason to get people to watch. The numbers did go up, though. It started to do better than primetime TV news. Even though they were on in the middle of the night. Fox then gave Goodfeld a bigger job in July 2011, a new afternoon show called The Five Needed Hosts. The format had 5 experts who talked about politics and the news every weekday at 5 p.m. One of those 5 would be Goodfeld. The 5 were a big deal. The show was the first non-prime show to ever get the most viewers overall and among people 25 to 54, which is a very important audience group. Feld was suddenly seen by millions of people instead of just a few thousand. But he kept hosting Red Eye 2 and worked on both shows at the same time for almost 4 more years. The work had to stop at some point. Goodfeld told Red Eye in February 2015 that he was going to work on a new project. The 3 a.m. The show had done its job. Greg Goodfeld had shown that he could keep people interested even when they didn't think anyone was looking. Fox was interested in what he could do with a real-time spot. Starting on May 31, 2015, at 10 p.m. every Saturday, The Greg Goodfeld Show was broadcast for the first time. It was a mix of political satire and variety show features. Goodfeld spoke in rants. He talked to people who make news. Kat Tim, a comedian with a libertarian view and a sharp wit, and Tyrus, a professional wrestler, were regular panelists. Tyrus was scary, but his comments were surprisingly thoughtful. The show ran on the weekends for 6 years. Goodfeld kept making his daily shows on the 5, though. He worked hard all the time to build an audience of loyal fans who watched his shows over and over again. There was hardly any mention of him by late-night hosts on television networks. A Saturday show on Fox News wasn't seen as rivalry by them. The year 2021 came along. Fox News said that the Greg Gutfeld Show would change its name to simply Gutfeld and air during the week. At 11 p.m., the new show would start. Eastern, going up against Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon, and Jimmy Kimmel. Experts in the field expected failure. How could a cable news show compete with shows on traditional networks? How could a conservative comedian get people to watch him when they had been watching Jon Stewart and his peers for over 20 years? The answer came quickly. Gutfeld had passed The Late Show with Stephen Colbert in the polls by August 2021. Over 2 million people watched the show every week. Every night, more than any other network or cable station. The person who got up at 3 a.m. now took over 11 p.m. Someone who was turned down became king. The numbers kept getting better. By the end of 2021, more than 5 million people watched both Goodfeld and The Five together. Goodfeld had its most popular show ever in October 2022, with 2.5 million people watched in one night. Those numbers are too high for any late-night show to beat. Fox moved Goodfeld to 10 p.m. in June 2023. Eastern. Because of the change, the show could no longer be considered late night. Some people said this was unfair because a 10 o'clock p.m. show shouldn't be compared to shows that start at 11:30. It didn't matter to Goodfeld what the words meant. He cared about the people who were watching, and they kept coming. The show's popularity showed bigger changes in how Americans watch TV. Late-night shows had become more political, with hosts attacking conservative fans as the enemy. Goodfeld suggested another way. His jokes were mean to both parties when they earned it, but mostly they were mean to Democrats. Even more importantly, his show felt real in a way that polished television shows didn't. He was once called the most dangerous man on TV by the Weekly Standard. Not like other sources. In terms of personalities, Goodfeld's work was truly subversive. It was like dropping a stink bomb in every American college lounge, mainstream newsroom, movie studio, and non-profit boardroom. Instead of following trends, he found his audience by being himself, a troublemaker who was fired from every good job he had until he found a place that valued chaos. The last parts of Goodfeld's story have gone in ways that no one, not even Goodfeld, saw coming. He told news that shocked regular viewers in December 2024. Greg was 60 years old. Goodfeld was now a dad for the first time. His wife Elena gave birth to a girl they named Mira. The news came during an episode of The Five, where Goodfeld made fun of his daughter's big lungs and his plans to teach her 3 languages. After 20 years of marriage, they still didn't have any kids. Then, Goodfeld had his first child, at a time when most guys his age were thinking about having grandchildren. The private man who rarely talked about his wife on camera all of a sudden had a whole new side to his life. The child. The announcement came at the same time that he continued to be the best at his job. Goodfeld was still the most watched show in its competitive set by 2025. On TV, his closest competitors had trouble getting 2 million people, while he always had more than 3 million. Someone who the TV business had thought wasn't good enough for TV had changed the late-night scene. Part of the story is in how he is different from his rivals. It is said that making broadcast late-night shows costs about $100 million a year. Feld used a small portion of those resources. His show was proud of its rougher beginnings and never tried to be as well put together as Colbert or Fallon's. His ideas about failing had turned out to be right on the mark. He said that getting fired was the best thing that could happen to anyone. When people get fired, they think their job is over. In fact, you always get to a better place. He had lived by that theory many times, turning each ending into a stepping stone instead of a dead end. It was only after the fact that the pattern became clear. With each firing, Goodfeld moved toward a place where his skills could really shine. Men's Health wants people to fit in. Stuff wanted to be normal. Maxim UK wants more copies to be sold. They didn't want someone who hired dwarves to cause trouble at business conferences. When it comes to Fox News, the 3 a.m. Goodfeld could finally be himself in a time slot that no one cared about. Elena stayed mostly the same. Not seen through his rise. She kept working in fashion and would sometimes show up on his Instagram, but she didn't watch any of his TV shows. Their relationship lasted because she stayed out of the public eye. In 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. Goodfeld used his ties at Fox News to help get Elena's mother from Lviv to Poland. He showed the reunion video on TV, which was one of the few times that people outside of work could see how his personal and professional lives mixed. At the top of his game, Goodfeld was in a situation that no one else could fill. Have expected when he was sitting broke at a Chelsea bar in 2006. The man who joked that his first audience was made up of crooks and tired parents had used that as a base to build something strong. Not only Fox fans watched him, but also more and more independents and even Democrats who thought the other shows on TV were boring. There is one story in the numbers. More than 3 million people watch each night, and more than 5 million people watch both shows together. Ratings were so high that CBS had to decide if The Late Show could go on. But the numbers don't show why it worked. You can find the answer somewhere in that pattern of failing and starting over. Goodfeld never tried to change to fit what the business wanted. He was fired because he was tough, pushed the limits, and wouldn't control his impulses. Eventually, he found a place where those traits were seen as assets instead of liabilities.